What if I told you that the moment you struggle to stand up from a chair, you may already be on the path toward losing your independence? I know that sounds uncomfortable, but as a physician who works with older adults every day, I can tell you this is exactly how it begins. Not with a major fall, not with a diagnosis, but with small changes most people ignore. Slower movements, weaker legs, a quiet hesitation before standing or walking. Here's what concerns me the most. By the time many people notice these changes, their strength, balance, and nerve function have already declined more than they realize. But there's something I've seen repeatedly in countries like Japan where people stay strong and mobile well into their 80s and beyond. They don't rely on intense workouts. Instead, they use simple, consistent movements, many of them done right from a chair, to maintain strength, circulation, and stability. And today, I'm going to show you the only 5 chair exercises that can help. You protect your legs, your balance, and most importantly, your independence. 1. Controlled Seato Stand. The one movement that quietly determines your independence. After 60, most people don't notice the moment their independence begins to slip until one day getting out of a chair feels harder than it should. That subtle hesitation, that need to push off with your hands is not just getting older. It's your body signaling that your leg strength, balance, and coordination are starting to decline. In my clinical experience, this single movement, standing up from a chair, is one of the most honest tests of functional health after 60. It reflects how well your muscles, joints, and nervous system are working together. And the good news is, when trained properly, it can be improved at any age. To perform this exercise effectively, start by choosing a firm, stable chair, something like a dining chair, not a soft couch or recliner. Sit toward the front edge with your feet, flat on the floor, about shoulder width apart. Your knees should be bent at roughly a 90-degree angle, with your heels positioned slightly behind your knees. This gives you a mechanical advantage and reduces strain on your joints. Now, here's the part most people get wrong. Instead of trying to stand up straight immediately, gently lean your upper body forward from the hips, as if your nose is moving over your toes. This shift is critical. It transfers your weight forward and activates your leg muscles more efficiently. From there, press through your heels and slowly rise to a standing position. If needed, you can lightly touch the armrests or your thighs for support, but try not to rely on your hands completely. Once you're standing, pause briefly to stabilize yourself, then begin the descent back into the chair. And this is where the real benefit happens. Lower yourself slowly with control, as if you're trying not to make a sound when you sit down. Avoid dropping into the chair. This controlled lowering strengthens your muscles and protects your knees and hips. Think of it as earning your seat, not falling into it. For most older adults, starting with 5 to 8 repetitions is appropriate. If you feel fatigued after just a few, that's completely normal. It means your muscles are being challenged in the right way. Over time, you can gradually increase to 10 or even 12 repetitions, but the goal is quality, not quantity. If you're dealing with neuropathy, numbness, tingling, or reduced sensation in your feet, this exercise becomes even more valuable. Moving slowly allows your brain to reconnect with your lower body, improving awareness and reducing your risk of missteps or falls. In these cases, I strongly recommend performing the movement near a counter or sturdy surface for safety. Be mindful of warning signs, sharp knee pain, dizziness, or a feeling of instability. If any of these occur, pause and adjust your range of motion or seek guidance from a healthcare provider. This is not about pushing through pain, it's about rebuilding control. What many people don't realize is that this simple daily movement directly translates into real-life independence. Getting up from the toilet, out of a car, or off the couch without assistance. Ignore it. And the decline can be gradual but relentless. Train it consistently, and you may preserve your mobility far longer than expected. And here's the part most people overlook. Even if your legs feel strong enough, there's another hidden system that determines whether you stay on your feet or end up on the ground. And it's not what you think. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Seated marching. The simple movement that reconnects your brain to your legs. It may feel like your legs are the problem, but in many cases, especially after 60, the real issue starts in the brain. I've had many patients tell me, my legs just don't respond the way they used to. What they're describing isn't always weakness. It's often a breakdown in communication between the brain and the muscles, something we see frequently in aging and even more in people dealing with neuropathy. That's where this deceptively simple exercise comes in, seated marching. At first glance, it might look too easy to matter, but when done correctly, it targets something most exercises ignore, your nervous system. It helps retrain your brain to send clearer, more coordinated signals to your legs, improving how you walk, shift your weight, and react to instability. To begin, sit in a firm chair with your feet flat on the floor. Sit tall, not stiff, but upright enough that your chest is open and your shoulders are relaxed. This posture matters more than people realize because slouching limits how effectively your muscles and nerves engage. Now, slowly lift one knee toward your chest, just a few inches off the ground. You don't need to bring it high. What matters is control. Pause briefly at the top, then lower it back down gently. Then repeat with the other leg. The key here is intention. This is not about speed or repetition. It's about awareness. You should feel your muscles activating and your brain focusing on the movement. If you're just going through the motions while watching TV, you're missing the benefit. Start with 20 alternating lifts, moving slowly enough that each repetition feels deliberate. If you're dealing with numbness or tingling in your feet, this exercise becomes even more valuable. It helps wake up the sensory pathways that often go quiet with age or nerve damage. One of the most common mistakes I see is rushing through the movement like it's a race. That turns it into a mechanical action and reduces its neurological impact. Another mistake is leaning back too far in the chair, which shifts the work away from your core and hips. If balance is a concern, you can lightly hold on to the sides of the chair, but try not to rely on your arms. Let your legs and core do the work. Over time, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. Your steps feel more natural, your coordination improves, and that hesitation you once felt when walking or turning starts to fade. And while this exercise helps reconnect your brain to your legs, there's another overlooked movement that directly improves circulation, something your body depends on more than ever after 60. 3. Seated heel raises. The circulation booster your legs depend on. After 60. If your feet feel cold, heavy, or slightly swollen by the end of the day, your body may be signaling something deeper than simple fatigue. What many older adults don't realize is that after 60, circulation in the lower legs naturally becomes less efficient. Blood has to travel upward against gravity, and without strong muscle contractions in the calves, that return flow slows down. Over time, this can contribute to stiffness, discomfort, and even increase the risk of balance issues. That's why this next movement, seated heel raises, is far more important than it appears. In clinical practice, we often refer to the calf muscles as the body's second heart. Every time they contract, they help push blood back toward your upper body. When they weaken, that entire system becomes less effective. To perform this exercise, sit comfortably in a firm chair with both feet flat on the floor. Your posture should be upright but relaxed, with your knees bent at about a 90-degree angle. From this position, slowly lift your heels off the ground while keeping your toes planted. Rise as high as you comfortably can, feeling the muscles in the back of your lower legs engage. Pause at the top for about 2 seconds. This pause is critical. It ensures the muscles are fully activated and gives your circulatory system time to respond. Then, lower your heels back down slowly and with control. Avoid letting them drop. Start with 15 repetitions and gradually build up to 20 or more as your strength improves. Ideally, perform 2 to 3 sets throughout the day. This is not an exercise that requires a dedicated workout session. You can do it while reading, watching television, or even sitting at the kitchen table after a meal. One of the most common mistakes is rushing through the movement. When people bounce their heels up and down quickly, they rely on momentum instead of muscle engagement. This reduces the effectiveness and limits the circulatory benefit. Another frequent issue is not lifting high enough. A small movement produces minimal results. You want a full, controlled range. For individuals experiencing neuropathy, this exercise becomes especially valuable. It not only improves blood flow, but also enhances sensory awareness in the feet and ankles. Over time, this can contribute to better stability and reduce discomfort. If you ever notice mild cramping when starting, that's not uncommon. It usually reflects underused muscles. Waking up. Stay within a comfortable range and allow your body to adapt gradually. With consistent practice, many people report less swelling, warmer feet, and improved endurance when standing or walking. And just when you think improving circulation is enough to keep you steady, there's one more overlooked movement that directly protects your knees. The joint most responsible for keeping you moving confidently every single day. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Seated leg extensions. The knee-saving strength most people build too late. It doesn't usually start with sharp pain. It starts with a quiet hesitation like thinking twice before climbing stairs or feeling unsure when stepping off a curb. That hesitation often traces back to one thing: weakening muscles around the knee, especially the quadriceps. These muscles act like shock absorbers for your joints. When they lose strength, your knees take on more stress than they were designed to handle, which can lead to instability, discomfort, and eventually a loss of confidence in everyday movement. This is exactly where seated leg extensions come in. It's one of the safest and most effective ways to rebuild strength around the knee without putting unnecessary strain on the joint. Especially important for adults over 60. To begin, sit in a sturdy chair with your back upright and both feet flat on the floor. Adjust your position so your knees are bent at about a right angle. Place your hands lightly on your thighs or the sides of the chair for balance, but avoid pushing down with your arms. Now slowly extend one leg forward until it is almost straight. You don't need to lock the knee completely. In fact, forcing it straight can create joint stress. Instead, aim for a controlled extension where you feel your thigh muscles fully engage. Hold that position for about 2 to 3 seconds. This pause is where the real strengthening happens. Then lower your foot back down slowly, maintaining control the entire time. Repeat the same movement with the other leg. Start with 10 to 12 repetitions per leg. As your strength improves, you can gradually increase to 15 repetitions. The key is not how many you do, but how well you control each movement. One mistake I frequently see is people swinging their leg up quickly and letting it drop. That turns the exercise into momentum rather than muscle work. Another common issue is leaning too far back in the chair, which reduces engagement of the core and shifts the workload away from the legs. For those dealing with knee discomfort or arthritis, this exercise is particularly valuable, but it must be done within a pain-free range. If extending fully causes discomfort, simply shorten the movement. Even small, controlled motions can produce meaningful improvements over time. Consistency is what makes the difference. Practicing this daily helps stabilize the knee joint, making activities like walking, standing, and even getting out of a car feel more secure and less taxing. Over time, patients often tell me they feel more confident trusting their knees again, and that confidence changes how they move through the world. But even with stronger knees and better control, there's still one hidden weakness that causes more falls than anything else, and most people don't even realize it until it trips them up. 5. Seated toe lifts, the overlooked movement that quietly prevents falls. It's rarely a dramatic misstep that causes a fall. It's often something small, like your foot not clearing the ground the way it used to. Many older adults are surprised when I explain this, but one of the most common reasons for tripping isn't weak thighs or poor balance. It's a subtle decline in the muscles at the front of your lower legs, the ones responsible for lifting your toes as you walk. When those muscles weaken, your foot doesn't rise high enough. That's when it catches on rugs, sidewalks, or even flat surfaces, and the risk of falling increases, often without warning. This is why seated toe lifts are so important. It's a simple movement, but it directly targets the exact muscles that help you walk safely and confidently. To get started, sit in a firm chair with your feet flat on the floor. Your posture should be upright but relaxed with your knees bent comfortably. Keep your heels planted on the ground at all times. This is essential. Now, slowly lift your toes upward, bringing the front of your foot off the ground while your heels stay in contact with the floor. You should feel a gentle contraction along the front of your lower legs. Hold that position for 1 to 2 seconds. Then lower your toes back down with control. Repeat this for 15 to 20 repetitions. What matters most here is not how high you lift, but how well you control the movement. Slow, deliberate motion is far more effective than quick, shallow lifts. One of the most common mistakes is barely moving the toes at all. Many people think they're doing the exercise, but there's little actual muscle engagement. Another mistake is leaning backward or shifting weight off the feet, which reduces the effectiveness of the movement. For those experiencing neuropathy, this exercise becomes especially valuable. It helps reawaken the connection between your brain and your feet, improving both awareness and responsiveness. Over time, this can make walking feel more natural and reduce that uncertain feeling many people describe. If you notice fatigue in the front of your legs, that's a good sign. These muscles are often underused, and strengthening them can make a noticeable difference in how safely you move throughout your day. You can easily incorporate this exercise into your routine while watching TV, sitting at the dining table, or even during a phone call. The key is consistency, not intensity. As these muscles strengthen, many people find they walk with more confidence, lift their feet more naturally, and feel less worried about tripping. And now that you've seen how each of these simple chair-based movements targets a different piece of the puzzle, the real question becomes, what happens when you combine all 5 together into one daily routine? The real goal isn't stronger legs, it's staying in control of your life. There's something I often wish more people understood before it becomes urgent. The body doesn't suddenly fail after 60. It gradually adapts to whatever you do or don't do. What you've seen through these 5 simple chair exercises is not just a routine, it's a strategy. Each movement targets a different system. Your body quietly depends on strength, circulation, coordination, joint stability, and foot control. And when even one of these begins to decline, the effects don't stay isolated. They spread into how you walk, how you stand, how you sleep, and how safe you feel in your own home. Many older adults don't talk about this openly, but there's a quiet awareness that begins to grow with age. You become more careful. You think twice before moving quickly. You notice small changes. Your legs feel heavier at night. Your balance isn't what it used to be. Or you wake up stiff and uncertain. These are not random signs. They are early signals from your body asking for attention. What concerns me most as a physician is not just the risk of falls during the day, but what happens at night. Getting out of bed in low lighting, moving to the bathroom while half awake, or reacting slowly to a loss of balance. These are some of the most common and dangerous situations for people over 60, and they don't happen because someone is careless. They happen because the body is no longer prepared to respond quickly and effectively. Now, here's the part that truly matters. If you continue on the same path without addressing these small declines, the next 1 to 5 years can look very different. Muscles weaken further, joints become less stable, and confidence begins to fade. And once confidence is lost, activity decreases, and that accelerates everything else. But the opposite is also true. If you take even 10 to 15 minutes a day to practice movements like the ones you've learned here, you begin to interrupt that cycle. You rebuild strength where it matters most. You restore communication between your brain and your body. You improve circulation and protect your joints. And perhaps most importantly, you regain a sense of trust in your own movement. This isn't about turning back the clock. It's about protecting what allows you to live on your own terms. Start small. Stay consistent. Pay attention to how your body responds, because the difference between needing help and staying independent often comes down to what you choose to do today. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.